Welcome back to the MOC course on corporate social responsibility. My name is Aradhana Malik and I'm helping you with this course. And till the last module, we were discussing about stakeholder issues. We had some discussion on how you do CSR and what really propels CSR and what affects CSR activities. Now in this module, we are going to start with the actual activities that take place in CSR. But before we do that, we will talk a little bit about corporate social performance, and with this we will actually get into how the physical, the tangible aspects of CSR. Now to start the discussion, again I will take I've taken the material from Professor Prakash Sethi's paper on how these decisions regarding social behavior are taken. How do organizations decide what to do? To put it very, very simply, if you're an organization, what will be or how will you decide what you want to do? So and this is an old paper, Professor Sethi had published this paper in 1975, but it still holds true in many, many ways, and that is why we are using this paper for this particular lecture. So Professor Sethi then, he talks about the behavior of corporations and how it is adjusted to their understanding of what they need to do for the society, and depending on what they feel they need to do or which state they are in, they start taking certain initiatives, they do certain things. The first state is social obligation, where they feel that contributing to society is just an obligation, and they use the proscriptive approach, which is the prohibitive approach. And then in the second state, they feel that it is their responsibility. It is no longer an obligation, it is no longer forced on them, but they accept it as their responsibility. It is a sense of duty, it is their responsibility. So the approach is prescriptive. This is the problem we see. These are the solutions we can suggest. State 3 is responsiveness. So they anticipate what the society can need, and their approach is preventive. They will take active measures to prevent problems in society. So the first state is prohibitive, which means that we don't want to get into trouble. It's a social obligation. We will do whatever it is to stay out of trouble. State 2 is we will suggest solutions because it is our duty to look after the society we live in. So if we see a problem, we will have a prescriptive approach. We will do whatever it takes to help with solve that problem in society. And then state 3, which is they understand that it is their responsibility to look after the environment, so they become responsive, which means they anticipate the needs of the community, they start anticipating the needs of the environment, of the society, and they start taking preventive measures, they start taking active steps to prevent the problems that can occur in the society, in the physical environment around them. And that is when they are really trying to, or they start to integrate their socially responsible or their behavior or the social responsibility that they assume for the society that they live in. So let's see what these are. Now while discussing the history of CSR, we had talked about Professor Prakash Sethi's contribution to CSR, and we had talked about social obligation being corporate behavior in response to market forces or legal constraints. So social obligation is there is pressure. If we don't do this, we will get into trouble with the market. Our profits will suffer. We could be penalized by the law. We are doing something anti-law. Social responsibility, on the other hand, implies bringing corporate behavior up to a level where it is congruent with the prevailing social norms, values, and expectations of performance. Everybody is doing it. Every good organization is doing it. It is our responsibility. We must do whatever we can to look after the environment that we live in. So if we see a problem, we'll solve it, we will help with it the way the rest of the people in our industry, in our community are looking after it. Okay. So let's see. what we have here. Now, we will discuss various dimensions of behavior, and we will see what happens along these dimensions at different states of understanding. With legitimacy, state 1, social obligation, we assume the organization does not violate laws. It engages in profitable operations with fulfilling social expectations. So, we will do whatever it is to avoid getting into trouble with the law, and we will still run a profitable organization. When it moves from there to the state, to the second state, which is social responsibility, the same organization becomes willing to consider and accept broader extra legal, which means outside the purview of the law, and extra market criteria, which means that criteria that may or may not necessarily be along the lines of what the rest of the market is doing, for measuring corporate performance and the social role. We don't measure our performance in the same way that the other organizations measure, which means we are not talking only about the monetary output of the organization, we are talking about what we are doing for the society. State 3 is, now it has become our responsibility. We want to really actively go out into the society and become socially responsive. So, when we are talking about legitimacy, then we accept our role as defined by the social system and therefore subject to change. We also recognize the importance of profitable operations, but include other criteria. So, we go out of our way to be socially responsible. Then, the next dimension of behavior is ethical norms. What do? When we try to follow ethical norms, the first state is social obligation. When we are trying to be an organization, as far as ethical norms are concerned, we consider our business value neutral, which means we don't have ethical norms within the business. It is the responsibility of each manager to be ethical according to their own standards. So, we don't have an ethical code of conduct. You do whatever is right and we will support you, and that is a social obligation. We will not prevent you from doing whatever you think is ethical and right. State 2 is social responsibility. Now, behavior is following and expressing your following ethical norms. Social, when we reach the second state, which means we become socially responsible, we define norms in community related terms as an organization. When I say we, I am talking about the organization, which means good corporate citizens do this. Our organization is a good corporate citizen. So, we are going to do this as an organization. Avoid taking moral stand on issues which may harm its economic interests or go against prevailing social norms. So, we don't take a moral stand on issues, but we go ahead and project ourselves as a good, as a right, as a nice organization. State 3 is social responsiveness. We want to be seen as an ethical organization, as an organization that follows ethical norms. So, what do? We take it shouldn't be defined, it should be definite. Takes definite stand on issues of public concern, advocates institutional ethical norms even though they may be detrimental to its immediate economic interest or prevailing social norms. So, you start advocating, you start talking about ethical norms even though they may not serve your immediate economic interest or the prevailing social norms, even though they may not be accepted in society, but you can see that in the future they will have very positive consequences for the society that you live in. So, you become responsive and you say, we are a good organization, we will not let this bad thing happen to the society around us. The next dimension of behavior is social accountability for corporate actions. When you are in state 1, your social obligation is you construe narrowly as limited to stockholders. So, we are talking about social accountability. We are talking about the accountability of our actions to the people out around us. So, we say that our stakeholders are the stockholders here, people who have a financial interest in the organization. It's a social obligation. jealously guards its prerogative against outsiders. We will not share this information with the outsiders, but we will be accountable to our stockholders. We will be accountable to the people who have invested in our organization. When we reach state 2, we say, okay, construes narrowly for legal purposes, but broadened to include groups affected by its actions, management more outward looking. So we say, okay, we have to be socially responsible. We have to be accountable for our actions. We will do what the law wants us to do, but we will also include people who we know for sure are going to be affected by our actions, and we start opening our doors. We don't only limit our accountability to our stockholders, to people who've invested in us, but to other people who are connected with the organization, and we start following the law. State 3. Social responsiveness. As an organization, we are willing to account for our actions to other groups, even those not directly affected by our actions. So these are people who could be remotely interested, but still they feel they are affected, and we say, okay, we will still serve your interests. We will leave our doors open. We are a transparent organization. We are accountable for our actions. If anything that we are doing harms you in any way, we will take corrective action against it. So, or we will take corrective action, to fix it. So, that is what happens. Then, dimension of behavior, operating strategy. How do you take care of this? State 1, social obligation, exploitative and defensive adaptation, maximum externalization of costs. So, we are very, very careful about how we spend, operating strategy. Then social responsibility, when we reach the second stage, reactive adaptation, where identifiable, internalize previously external costs. So anything that we have incurred from outside is internalized, maintain current standards of physical and social environment, compensate victims of pollution and other corporate related activities even in the absence of clearly established legal grounds, develop industry-wide standards. So we become reactive. We say, okay, we'll do everything in our capacity to avoid getting into trouble with the law. So if we feel that any law can, or we can be booked under any law for the way we operate our organization, for the way we do the work in our organization, we will cut down the chances of those activities also. When we reach stage 3, we become socially responsible, where we are adapting in a proactive manner. You take lead in developing and adapting new technology for environmental protectors. You find out what you can do to save the environment, evaluate side effects of corporate actions and eliminates them prior to the actions being taken. Anticipate future social changes and develop internal structures to cope with them. So you find out what you need to do and to ensure that you don't harm the environment in any way, you don't harm the stakeholders in any way, you are proactively adapting to the problems, to any harm that your operations can cause to people connected with the organization. Dimension of behavior, social response to social pressures. How do you respond to social pressures? When you are in state 1, you have a social obligation to respond to social pressures. So, as and when the pressures come, you start responding to them. What do? You maintain a low public profile. You become invisible. But if attacked, uses PR methods to upgrade its public image. So, some social pressure comes and you say, no, we are not doing anything, but there is no proactive work here. Denies any deficiencies. You don't acknowledge that you may have gone wrong in some place. Blames public dissatisfaction on ignorance or failure to understand corporate functions. Somebody points a finger at you and you say, you don't understand our work. We do things differently. Discloses information only where legally required. So, that is state 1 of social obligation. Again, this whole information is presented in the form of a very nice table in the paper, but I have broken it up to help you understand where we are headed with this. So, discloses information only where legally required. So, that is the response to social pressures where you feel only socially obligated. Then you move on to the next state. If you feel socially responsible, If you feel socially responsible, then you accept responsibility for solving current problems. You admit deficiencies, so you say yes, there is a problem, and yes, if it's my fault, I will do everything in my capacity to fix it. Will admit deficiencies in former practices and attempt to persuade public that its current practices meet social norms. There is a social pressure. People from outside are asking you how you're doing things. What is your company about? So you say, okay, I'm sorry, or we are sorry as an organization. We admit that there were gaps in the way we were doing things. We thank you for your suggestions. You incorporate these suggestions, or you attempt to convince the people who are asking you these questions that there were deficiencies, but based on the feedback that you have received from various stakeholders, you have improved and you continue to improve, and you're trying to meet the current standards of social norms. So whatever you are doing is going to be acceptable to the community because of the way you're doing it. Attitude towards critics is conciliatory. You make peace with your critics. You don't fight with your critics, you don't defend yourself, you say, okay, thank you very much for your suggestions, yes, we will improve based on your feedback. And so when you act in a socially responsible manner, you don't say, okay, you are wrong, you don't know anything. No, thank you very much, and we will take your advice. Freer information disclosures than state one. You disclose the information in a much more free manner. People ask you, you make it readily available. People don't have to hunt for it. Okay. State 3, social responsiveness. You willingly discuss activities with the outside groups. Social pressures, you discuss whatever is happening in your organization with the people who may or may not be connected with the organization. Outside groups come and ask you, you say, yes, we are a transparent organization, this is the way we do things. Make information freely available to public. Accept formal and informal inputs from outside groups in decision making. Why? Because you're trying to be socially responsible, you're trying to be accountable. At this stage, you don't feel the pressure from outside, you're ready, you brace yourself to deal with it, and you say, thank you very much, this is the way we are doing things, it's out in the open for everybody to see. It is willing to be publicly evaluated for its various activities. So you lay your work out in the public and you say, yes, we feel we have done everything in our capacity to be a socially responsible organization. We have met the current standards, we have matched, the current standards. We are trying to live up to the current standards, and this is what we are doing. Anyone can ask us questions about it. That is when you are responding to the outside pressures. Okay. Then the next dimension of behavior is activities pertaining to governmental actions. What do you do with this? Social obligation. You strongly resist any regulation of its activities except when it needs help to protect its market position. You say, we don't want any interference, we will do whatever we need to do, we will follow the law, but we will not accept any outside, or we will not let anyone tell us how to do our work. Avoids contact, resists any demands for information beyond what is legally required. So as far as the activities that pertain to governmental actions, you don't take advice, you do whatever it is, whatever you need to do in order to comply with the laws, and then you don't share that information except when the law requires you to do that. State 2, social responsibility. You preserve management discretion in corporate decisions, but cooperate with the government in research to improve industry-wide standards. So you let the government help you improve your work. So you say, okay, fine, we will, in the previous state you say, no, thank you very much, we are doing things the way we are doing. In this state, when you become socially responsible, you say, yes, it's no longer an obligation, we are really committed to improving, we are really committed to being answerable to our stakeholders. So what do you do? Or we are committed to being responsible to the society around us. So you say, okay, in our major decisions, our management will take the decision, but we don't have a problem with the government helping us improve upon our current practices. Participates in political processes and encourages employees to do likewise. So you start going out of your, in the first state you avoid all contact and you say, no, no, thank you very much, we are happy where we are, whatever we are doing is in a tight shell, we don't want any outside interference here. You start participating in the government because you feel that the industry can influence you and you can also influence the industry. State 3, social responsiveness. Openly communicate with the government. Assist in enforcing existing laws and developing evaluations of business practices. So you help the government, you become an ally of the government and you help the government in enforcing existing laws. Object publicly to governmental activities that it feels are detrimental to the public good. So you become a part of the vocal public and you say, we are responsible corporate citizens. India is a democracy. The country in which this paper was published is the world's most powerful democracy, which is the United States. So you know, you can, and again this is the view of a professor from the United States that was published in 1975. So if you become socially responsible, you may feel free. This is what the author said in 1975 and it's not my opinion. So you may feel that, you know, you may feel empowered to object publicly to governmental activities that you feel are detrimental to the public good. Again, this point must be exercised with caution. Please follow the laws of your country. If your government does not encourage you to speak against its activities, please do not do so. If your government discourages you from speaking against the activities it does, please do not do so. Please follow the rules, the policies and the norms of your government. Again, these are not my views, these are the views of an author that were published in 1975. Okay. Dimension of behavior, legislative and political activities. Step 1, social obligation. When you are in this state, you seek to maintain status quo as far as political activities and legislative activities are concerned. You actively oppose laws that would internalize any previously externalized costs. You seek to keep lobbying activities a secret, so you keep any association with any political party a secret. It is a social obligation. You support some political party, but you don't let people come to know about it. Step 2, social responsibility. You're willing to work with outside groups, so you are becoming more and more responsible. You're willing to work with outside groups for good environmental laws. You concede the need for change in some status quo laws. There is less secrecy in lobbying than state 1. So you share information about your affiliation with some political party, supporting the activities of some political party. Step 3, social responsiveness. Avoid meddling in politics and does not pursue special interest laws. Assist legislative bodies in developing better laws where relevant. So you mind your own business, you don't pursue special interest laws, but you help the people who can make a difference make better laws where relevant. Promotes honesty and openness in government and in its own lobbying or political association activities. Okay. The last dimension of behavior that we will talk about is philanthropy. We have discussed philanthropy in the past, so I will not dwell too much upon it. State 1, when philanthropy is a social obligation, you contribute only when direct benefit to it clearly shows. So you see a direct tangible benefit to it, and that is when you start contributing. Otherwise, you view contributions as the responsibility of the individual employees. This is in line with the ethical norms. State 1, social obligation. Managers are expected to behave according to their own ethical standards. So in this, philanthropy is individually managed. You say that as managers, if you want to contribute, it's up to you, but we don't sorry, we were here. So you know, it's your own individual business. when you become socially responsible, you start contributing to non-controversial and established causes. Everybody is looking after the welfare of abandoned animals, so we'll also do it. You know, different organizations are setting up homes for stray dogs, for care of stray dogs. We don't want stray dogs to be killed, we want them to be adopted by people, by dog lovers. Great. You also set up a little center where these dogs are taken care of, dogs and cats and other pets are taken care of, and you sort of, you know, help with the adoption of these animals. This is a non-controversial topic. So you say, okay, we'll contribute to this. You match employee contributions towards this. You say, we don't want to be in public eye, we'll just stay out of trouble. We are socially responsible, we are helping with non-controversial causes and established causes. State 3 is when you become socially responsive, and you say, we activities of state 2 plus the support and contributions to new and controversial groups whose needs it sees as unfulfilled and increasingly important. When you reach state 3, you say that, well, we are not scared anymore. We will be able to contribute to these different, we would like to contribute to these causes that we think are important. We don't care whether they are controversial or not. So that is what you start doing when you reach state 3, and these are the ways in which organizations typically behave. Now, this paper was written in 1975. This paper, this table that I have presented in paragraph form to you is still very, very relevant to the way organizations perceive their understanding or perceive the state that they are in and the activities related to those states, more or less. So, there is one more word of caution that I would like to insist upon again here before I wind up this lecture, and that is this last point. This was written by an author living in another country and it was published in 1975. Please do whatever you need to do. I am not advocating this, I am not rejecting it, I am just an academic. I am informing you that this became a part of this paper. So, you object publicly. Organizations that consider themselves to be socially responsive as far as their activities pertaining to governmental actions are concerned may feel comfortable objecting publicly to governmental activities that they feel are detrimental to the public good. Now, whether you do it or not depends on your judgment. Please follow the laws of the land. Please follow whatever your government wants you to do. Now, on that note, I am going to stop. That is all we have time for in this lecture. So, we will end this lecture here, and in the next lecture we will talk about the different kinds of activities that different organizations take up for their, as far as their CSR behavior, CSR as far as their socially responsible behavior is concerned. So, do think about these, and we will talk more about this in the next class. Thank you very much for listening.